Good evening, everyone on YouTube. This is your host, Darth Bobcat, here to bring you another comic review. Though this one is a bit different, because as you may have noticed by the beautiful eyes and cartoony faces of this one, the fact that the comic opens backwards, that this is a manga, not an American comic for once. I'm a big fan of both Eastern and Western comics. And I find that I tend to go through cycles of one or the other. Right now it's kind of unusual because I've been doing about an equal amount of both, though deciding to do a few American comic reviews has been shifting the balance a bit. This is one of the main series I've been following for about a year or so. I picked up the first volume when I had a really good nice coupon from Barnes & Noble, who I'm a big fan of, even though I have the Amazon affiliate link down below, but that's neither here nor there. Speaking of, if you like what you see here and you want to give this series a shot, go ahead and click below on the affiliate link. That way I can get a few shekels, you get to enjoy some things, Amazon gets a sale, everyone wins. So what is Deliecious in Dungeon? Because what really got my attention when I first saw this at the store was this cover. So, good job, Ryoko. Your cover did its job of making me want to give you money. Well, Deliecious in Dungeon is set in a fairly boilerplate fantasy story where you have, or actually say video game / RPG inspired fantasy story, where you have this dungeon on an isolated island that's a sunken city. And the wealth of the old city is still down there. A lot of monsters have set up shop there. So bands of adventurers go down to explore / loot it. And this is the story of a party who's having a very bad day. They're having to fight this huge red dragon. They've already run into some misery in that they have lost a lot of materials, including 3 days worth of food. And in the course of things, the knight, Laos, his sister, gets devoured by the red dragon. Whole party wipe. But this is where the sort of video gamey / nice dungeon master aspect of it comes in. In this world, there is the ability to revive people. Ah, man, sorry, I got distracted by this art. I love this art so much. You can revive dead people in this world. It's just that there is a sort of % chance of failure, so you don't want to do it too often. And they go into it more in depth in a later volume, exactly what those parameters are. And so it means that the devoured sister can actually be saved as long as they get that red dragon in time. Although it makes you wonder just how slowly red dragons digest since they are adventuring for several days, but that's neither here nor there. And so Phelan is the name of the sister. And they decide they're going to turn around and go back in there and save Phelan. Now the trouble is that they lose a few party members, which already puts them at a disadvantage considering the red dragon was able to get them last time. And this is where, if I was going to describe this series, it would be the fantastical made mundane, or the mundane details of the fantastical, however you want to look at it. Because they go into, okay, well, it's expensive to be an adventurer. You have to buy all this equipment, you have all this expensive food. And as you might recall, they just lost a few days' supplies worth. And so in the course of their discussions, they decide that the only thing they can do if they're going to keep on going, because again, ticking clock to save Phelan, they're going to have to live off the land. And I love this shot here where they show the food pyramid. Sorry, I'm getting way too amused by all this. And so when the suggestion comes out, let's having these things for lunch. No. No, I don't wanna. And it turns out there's this whole book called The Dungeon Gourmet about how to prepare and eat dungeon monsters as proper food. And it turns out that Laos has wanted to start eating these monsters for a while. Just he's never had the excuse to try to force the issue because, you know, his party members are kind of wussy. And in the course of things, they meet this dwarf named Senshi, who is an expert of dungeon survival. And so that's that's your premise. You have a ticking clock. You run into different monsters, and they alternately go through how do we fight these things versus how do we prepare these things. Now I want to go through. Let's do art first, and then writing first, and then writing next. The art is, in my opinion, perfect for what you're trying to do. I especially love her facial expressions. I find that a lot of times there's a divide in manga between shonen versus shoujo, the boys comics versus the girls comics, and I feel like a lot of the best. I think that I notice that there's often a distinct style difference between how they're drawn, and some of my favorite stuff is when you get a crossover, like a female artist drawing a boys comic, which is how I would classify this one, because I think it's the American comic artist behind most of the Power Girl stuff over their last 20 years, whose name I forget, once commented that she's good at drawing beautiful women because she sees one in the mirror every morning. By the same sort of token, Ryoko here, who I don't know what Ryoko looks like, but she's good at drawing women so that they are different from each other. And it's not just in the body type, it's in the facial structure, it's just in the little details. So it's like where a lot of comic book artists are really good at drawing different looking men, but all the women are basically the same, just with different hair colors and styles and such. She's good at drawing a diversity of things. Speaking of, there are some really awesome monster bits here. You get a lot of cool dynamic motion. So I was just enjoying him shouting to get this cockatrice's attention. Then you have some really awesome action shots. The art is pretty much impeccable in my opinion. There's the occasional bit where it isn't as good as it could have been, but it always communicates what it needs to communicate. You know that they're working on a schedule of some sort. Since I think that this is probably done monthly, but I've never bothered to look into the update schedule of it, since it comes out in the U.S. when it comes out. So, I'm not gonna worry about getting it faster than our buddies at Yen Press choose to get it out to me. Man, you just want to reach in and grab that food. Writing-wise, there's a good character dynamic here with the elf here, whose name I forget off the top of my head. That is one complaint I have, is a lot of manga will have a first page for each volume naming who the characters are. Just for an example, I happened to get a bunch of stuff I had lent out to friends back at the same time. Let's see if this one does the same thing. No, actually, maybe that's a relic of a bygone era to have a character page where they give you all the characters' names. I've actually been reading quite a bit of this, and the characters don't call each other by name very often, which is kind of interesting. I had to look up Senshi and Laos's names here. I can't think of the elf girl's name. I think it's like Marceline, almost, something like that. Marine. Which is sad because she's my favorite character, because she is an excellent straight woman for Senshi and Laos here. Because, Senshi is just very straightforward and using an axe as a spit roast. That's awesome. I forgot about that bit. So yeah, it's funny, but it's also can be extremely tense. In a later volume, they actually run into the dragon, and that whole sequence of trying to fight it in a crowded city or in a abandoned city that's just very tight corridors is just so tense, and I was actually worried for them the whole time. even though realistically that they're probably going to be okay, if you can make me forget that the author is doing this to make money and probably doesn't much care to. Sorry, I love some of the. I love Senshi's dead eyes. They never change expression at all. Anyway, I had the illusion created of real danger for the heroes. Also, the inventiveness of a lot of the monsters is great. Like, for example, cockatrice, it's a chicken with a snake for a tail. Well, it turns out it's actually a snake with a chicken for a tail. That's the type of funny little detail that you get here. Also, you have one monster they run into, which is an animated suit of armor. And they are actually... I think the enchanted suits of armor are actually my favorite monsters in the whole thing. Because, remember, the whole premise here is the Fantastic Made Mundane. It is such a creative monster. As you might have been able to tell, I really enjoy this series. Big fan. I encourage it to anybody I talk to about manga. Hey, are you reading Deliecious and Dungeon? Well, why not? Give it a shot. It's not one of the big series, but I feel like it deserves a lot of respect. And if you agree with me and you like what you've been seeing so far, again, link down below. Everybody wins. And yeah, this gets a hearty endorsement. Well, you all have yourselves a great night. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I always appreciate your comments. Fat Boy, I've been appreciating your commentary and support. Thank you very much for that. I will continue to try to improve. And you all have yourselves a great day.